Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Players Own YouTube channel, and we are now merely a few days away from the start of the Premier League season. So like last year, I'm going to be going through 10 players who I think will have a breakout season this year in the Premier League. Last year, some of the calls didn't go as well. A lot of them actually didn't even feature due to injuries or being pushed down the pecking order. This year, I'm hoping to do a little bit better with some of these young players or players that have just signed and moved to the Premier League that will likely have a breakout this season for different reasons. Again, as I'm saying, young talents coming through or join the Premier League, making a big move to the top league and trying to establish himself amongst the starting 11 at their current side. Let me know your thoughts of these picks, obviously, the comment section down below, and let me know, is there any other players out there that you think might make that step up or break through into the starting 11 of any Premier League side this season? With that being said, ladies and gents, let's jump straight into the first player. Now, my first player is a little bit of a cop-out in many regards. I'm going with Omari Hutchinson from Ipswich. Obviously had a fantastic season last year in the Championship with Ipswich Town, being that goal scorer and facilitator from a wide attacking region. Again, it's someone who I can see drifting inside, playing in behind the number 9, but I think his best work will be done on the flank with a bit of trickery and a bit of skill. And it'll be interesting to see this season how he goes in the Premier League. He got the 10 goals and the 5 assists in his 44 Championship appearances last season. Was probably not the best player Leif Davis or even Connor Chaplin could have taken that mark last season, but was one of the more important players with important goals at very pivotal times throughout their run to finishing second in the Championship and securing automatic promotion to the Premier League. Again, with an Ipswich side who I don't have much faith to do that well this season, they'll rely a lot on Omari Hutchinson. Obviously made the £24 million signing to Ipswich from Chelsea on a permanent to try and really keep them up this season. If he has moments of magic, if he can up his tally to be a sort of 10 to 12 goal game, 10 to 12 goals season, along with about 10 assists, really massive numbers like that, that will be enough to keep Ipswich up, you'd think. Because, you know, you've got an unproven talent in Delap up top and not much else facilitation around the main centre forward, and to find the back of the net, it's going to fall onto the shoulders of Omari Hutchinson to make the difference. I feel like this year could be a year we see him shoulder a lot of the load, similar to what we saw last year with Adoi from Luton Town. Take that mantle as being the main guy to score your goals, to make things happen, and really establish yourself as one of the key players in the Premier League and maybe one of the top players in England this season. Our next player is someone I'm pretty sure I mentioned last season, but I'm going to re-mention him yet again. It's Kevin Schade from Brentford. Obviously, he made the full permanent move last season from Freiburg, confirmed for €25 million, and I was really excited to see what he could do last season while Ivan Toney was out with that betting suspension, but due to injury did not get the opportunity to play. Only made the 11 appearances due to those injuries and didn't really get to see the best of him. He's that runner, he's that fresh exuberance and that youthful nature in the final third. He's going to take the game on and be really excited to watch. We didn't quite see that. He was still getting his fitness under him when he came up for injury and at the start of the season trying to find his feet. This year, it's going to be very interesting to see. Igor Thiago has been signed, but is dealing with a knee injury. Ivan Toney looks like he actually might be staying at Brentford. So I'm very excited to see what the two of them can do up top. You'd think Mbeumo and Vissa will be involved at some point, but Kevin Schade was their record-breaking signing, their big money signing when they brought him across from Freiburg last season. And I think the talent of this young kid has to come on show this season. I feel like this is the year he will break onto the scene with goals, with assists from wide areas. I think he'll take up that mantle on the left-hand side there and look to stretch defences. And I feel like with Ivan Toney's real clinical nature in front of goal and the ability for him to drag defenders away and open up spaces, I think Kevin Schade will have a fantastic season. I know he's really got the ability there. Can we see the best of him this season? We'll have to wait and see. But if we don't, it could be a flop signing. It could go either two ways. It could be a breakout year or it could be a year where we see him not do well and then eventually end up back in Germany. But I feel like this guy has got bucket loads of talent. If you give him the time, I think he'll flourish this Brentford side. It's how Thomas Frank allows him to be at his best and fitting to the system that's going to matter. But come the midpoint of the season, I think he'll be established on the left-hand side there. And if Ivan Toney's still there, we've got a really, really dangerous combination up top and one of the maybe top partnerships in terms of excitement in the Premier League this season. Our next player is someone on the lips of a lot of people right now in the preseason. He's been fantastic, and that is Yerry Mina, joining Brighton for €39 million from Newcastle United. Last season, he was out on loan and did fantastically well. 27 appearances, including 17 starts, where he scored the 10 goals and the 5 assists. This guy is super dynamic. The type of wingers I love to watch. Get your head down, drive into spaces, more traditional in that regard, but very safe with the ball at his feet. And in a Hurtsler system, which we saw at St. Pauli, overloading the wide areas and using width is very, very important and pivotal to your style of football, as we saw at St. Pauli. And we've seen in pre-season that Yerry Mina is going to be very, very important for Brighton Hove Albion. Competing with Simon Adingra on the channel there on the flank, it's going to be very important that he starts the season well like he has in pre-season. Again, another team in Brighton who I don't have much faith in this season to do very well. They're going to need some standout performances, but that would be Solly March. And then I think most importantly, Yerry Mina will be the guy to facilitate and create chances for this side. We saw what Adingra did last season. I think Yerry Mina is a different level. He's a bit more safer on the ball. He creates more things. He's a bit more of an X factor and a dynamic player that gets bums on seats or get bums off seats to be excited seeing him running down the flanks. I feel like Brighton this season, a very hollow midfield. They lacked a lot of quality without Pascal Gross. Billy Gilmore looks like he's on the way out of the club as well. So you'd expect a lot of their chance creation and the excitement to come from the flanks. Valentin Barco, Mina here, Solly March, obviously Karim Matoma, we know how good he can be as well. And with Evan Ferguson's downturn in form last season, João Pedro looking to play as the number 10 in this side, and Danny Welbeck not getting any younger, the goal is going to have to come from somewhere, and you assume it'd be from the flank. So if Mina can carry that form over what she had on loan last season, and what we saw in pre-season here with Brighton, he could be the main turning point in Brighton season to make their season not one of relegation. It'll be one of a mid-table finish because they could be batting relegation. And to adjust to this new Hurtsler system, you're going to need wingers that know how to overload the wide areas and create from wide spaces. And I feel like Mina will be the perfect player for Sebastian Hurtsler this season at Brighton and Hove Albion. From one Brighton player to the next is Valentin Barco. We're going to see a little bit of him last season. The left-back joined in January for €9.15 million, and in his limited time showed what he could do in the Premier League last season. It was a very difficult season for Brighton Hove Albion. Roberto De Zerbi was balancing a lot of different things. European football, a very injury-prone side, and a lot of new faces and young faces at the club. The club's got even younger with the manager and with the players they've brought in. But a player like Valentin Barco, I think, can take the next step this season and, similar to Mina, be very, very pivotal into their performances this season. As I said previously, Hurtsler loves the overloading of wide spaces and utilising the half space as well, allowing midfielders and also wingers to come inside slightly and utilise that space. But that can only be created by fullbacks pushing on and creating through pushing up the pitch and overloading those wide spaces. The half spaces don't open up for teams and cannot be used by teams that don't commit numbers forward. I think Valentin Barco, we've seen signs of it last season. Going forward is very, very handy and very progressive, but also equally defensively very, very good as well. He won 4 duels per game, 2 tackles per game with the 2.7 ball recoveries per game in a very energetic mould which he played last season in his limited time there. We saw he's a very strong player going forward, but we also saw, like we saw from their stats there, a very capable defender going back and cleaning up defensively. And I feel like this season at Brighton, it's going to be exciting football. It's going to be throwing numbers forward. It's going to be committing and playing this high energetic style of football, which Crystal Palace, which Bournemouth both implemented to great degrees last season. I think Hurtsler will try and copy the mould which you saw in Oliver Glasner and Andone Iriola's type performances last season. If he can mask that with a little bit, we saw the players I had at those sort of clubs, the Milos Kerkez, the Munoz of the world, that are very good going forward, but equally can cover off defensively. And I feel like Valentin Barco is in that very similar mould, and I feel like he will flourish this season as the number 1 left back for me. Purvis Estupinian, a great season 2 years ago, injury prone across the last year, and really struggled to get back into form. You've got a young player in Barco with bucket loads of talent and bucket loads of potential, and I feel like he will flourish under Sebastian Hurtsler this season at Brighton. My next player is Tim Aruk-Benham, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, who's just joined Everton from Aston Villa in what could be a forgettable transfer in the Onana swap deal. But the young player has been impressive in the limited time we've seen of him. Obviously, the big move came in that loan spell to QPR in season 22-23, where he established himself as a very versatile, dynamic energetic midfielder that can go both ways in the middle of the park there at QPR in that season. Had limited opportunities last season at Aston Villa. We know how good the likes of Kamara, McGinn, Tielemans and the like were in midfield last season. And despite Douglas Luiz leaving, they go and replace him with Amadou Onana, and also with Ross Barkley. So as such, Tim's time is limited, and I think as a result, Unai said go and flourish somewhere else, and it was a perfect opportunity to go for a bit of a swap deal there and land himself at Everton. Again, another team who I don't think will do very well this season. I think they'll really struggle under Sean Dyche in the Premier League this season, lacking a lot of quality. Amadou Onana has that quality, but Timo Benham has that quality as well. His per 90 stats are quite impressive. 7.5 possession regains and 2.8 tackles per game in the per 90 stats. So really, really good in that regard in terms of cleaning up defensive. Same that Onana did, and it's going to be that hole that Everton will have this season. So he's going to have to step up and elevate himself and to be that elite level midfielder that can clean up defensively. But I think a part of his game, which I would love to see flourish at Everton, is his ability to carry the ball forward and create options in front areas of the pitch. Everton will sit back a lot this season. That's the Sean Dyche blueprint, the way of football. But with players like Timo Benham trying to facilitate for the lack of chances they make, he might be really pivotal to getting the ball moving forward, finding the likes of Dwight McNeil, the Jack Harrisons, the Betos, the Dominic Calvert-Lewins up top by winning the ball back and quickly getting into a counter-attack, because that's where you'd think Everton will be at their best. It's going to be a very, very makeshift, younger midfield, but he's going to have to step up to elevate himself to be at the Everton standard and to keep this side up. And I feel like he will flourish under that pressure. It's going to be a death by fire almost. He's going to have to go in there and find his way through tough situations. But I feel like sometimes players flourish in those tough situations. They learn a lot about themselves, a lot about their abilities, and a lot about how to improve themselves as well. And I think this will be a great opportunity for Tim to really do that this year. I think for me, probably one of the players you'll see a lot of this season due to the lack of depth in midfield for Everton this season. So I think he'll be thrown in there from the start and learning on the go, but I feel like he'll have a fantastic season. As I said, we didn't see much of him at Aston Villa last season, limited time in Europe and a few appearances off the bench in the league. But this is a year we can see him play consistent 90 minutes alongside like a James Garner as well, who's established himself at Everton as well. And it could be a quite interesting dynamic there in the centre of the park of Everton. I can see Erog Benham this season actually establishing himself as a top Premier League player at a club that's battling to stay in the top flight. The next player comes from Manchester United, and it's another one of Eric Ten Hag's youthful disciples, it feels like. Toby Collier looks like he's the next to take that step to join the first team. We had Alejandro Garnacho, then we had Kobbie Mainoo last season, and United fans and myself are very excited about Toby Collier. The 20-year-old looked fantastic this season. In the pre-season, looked really, really good at playing alongside the first team, likes of Casemiro, Mason Mount, Marcus Rashford, established first teamers and fitting in quite well. And as I said, this is a Ten Hag style. Every season he's brought a different player into his core group. It was Alejandro Garnacho in season 1. You saw him talk to Kobbie Mainoo after winning the Carabao Cup. Then Kobbie Mainoo joins along, was pivotal last season for Manchester United season. Then you see him talking to Toby Collier at full time, the FA Cup final. And slowly but surely he's bringing a youthful group into this Manchester United side. You can see the average age of the potential starters should be around 23 to 24 years old. He likes the youthful players, and at Manchester United, it's being built the club on youthful players coming up through the academy and producing. And I feel like Toby Collier's got that about him. He doesn't ooze the same sort of confidence and calmness that Kobbie Mainoo does, but is very comfortable on the ball. And I feel like where he separates himself from Kobbie Mainoo is he covers a lot of ground. You see his heat maps in the PL2 or the under-21s division. You see what he did in pre-season as well with Manchester United. Covers a lot of ground, capable of winning the ball back really well and progressing the ball. Him and Kobbie Mainoo have got that unique ability to win the ball and get their head up and look forward first rather than sideways or backwards like a lot of sort of deep-lying or central midfielders naturally do. They've got that ability and that talent and that belief in themselves to pick the ball up and drive into spaces, operate into tight areas and get the ball progressing forward. We saw it against Manchester City as well. The Community Shield final comes on and made a difference. Broke the play up, created some counter-attacks for Manchester United and didn't look out of place at all against the best team in Europe and arguably the world right now, Manchester City. So really, really impressive what we've seen from him in pre-season. Again, he won't be thrusted in you expect as much as Kobbie Mainoo was last season due to the injury crisis, but you expect to see a little bit of him here and there in Europa League football, maybe some Carabao Cup performances, and who knows, by the end of the season we might be seeing a Kobbie Mainoo, Toby Collier combination in the centre of the park for Manchester United, just going to show how good these two are and the faith Erik ten Hag has in the young talent at Manchester United. Our next player is Stephy Madidi from Leicester City, a player I'm very, very excited about. Again, a little bit of an older player, but it's going to break out this season in the Premier League, I feel like. Went to France, did some fantastic work at Montpellier, I believe, and came back to Leicester last season and was pivotal alongside Fatawu in their charge to win the championship last season. It's going to be a funny old season for him, though, because it's going to be adjusting to a potentially different style of football now that Maresca's left. He operated really, really well under Maresca because of the consistent chances and the consistent possession Leicester had under Maresca's leadership and the style of football they were implementing. This year, you're going to expect a little bit different under Steve Cooper, a little bit more counter-attacking football and less opportunities going up against Premier League sides. But I feel like he can still flourish this season in that wide area there, consistently being available, driving at defenders and using that pace to get past defenders and find the back of the net. He was fantastic last season for Leicester, 12 goals and 6 assists, and wasn't very wasteful in the final third, which is a big problem with a lot of wingers that come up from the Championship into the Premier League. If he continue to be clinical and make the right decisions, in the final third there, make a difference, I feel like Leicester can be successful this season. Again, another team that's teetering on the edge of a relegation battle or mid-table safety, it's going to rely on these type of players because they don't really have a focal number 9. I feel like if the likes of Fatu and Madidi can continue to perform at a high level, it takes a load off the likes of Daka and Vardy to be that clinical number 9, because I don't think they're the type of players you need to be relying on this season. Madidi gives you those consistent performances, 12 to 15 goals a season, a few assists in there as well, stretching back lines on the counter-attack or in possession. That's what Leicester need this season to be successful. And I feel like with all the eyes of the Premier League world on him, people discover that Madidi is a very, very handy player. Maybe not the top elite level player, but a very, very consistent handy player at that. We come back to Manchester United for the next player, and it is Amad Diallo. Many may say he broke into the team last year, but I feel like this should be the full breakout season for Diallo this season. We saw what he did in the Community Shield against Manchester City, breaking them apart with one-touch passing, dribbling into tight areas. We saw what he did in pre-season, that famous goal to beat Liverpool with a halfway sprint for them in the FA Cup last season. A fantastic opening Premier League goal against Newcastle last season. But only made the 9 appearances last year for Manchester United. Now has a chance to have a full season. Had a full pre-season under Erik ten Hag. It looks like he is favouring him to make the start. United fans are praying we see Diallo and Alejandro Garnacho from the season start. And I feel like if we do, we're going to see a very, very exciting Manchester United side and a very exciting side for Amad Diallo. He's done the hard work, playing away in Serie A, coming across to Manchester United as a very young guy, scoring that Champions League goal famously during the COVID season. Then when it loaded Sunderland, it did fantastically well and was one of the championship ballers, if you want to put it that way, of that season there. Now is a chance, after a few years of being patient, to get his spot at Manchester United and prove he is that player. So tricky with the ball at his feet. And unlike a lot of Manchester United wingers of recent times, he makes the right read and makes the right pass. Almost makes too many passes, as we saw in the Community Shield final. Probably needs to shoot more often than not, but a very unselfish player. A player that's very talented in the sort of Man City mould where he's good with the ball at his feet. He can play in his half space, he can play in tight areas, and he can dribble out of problems and dribble out of trouble as well and find the back of the net. He's got the full package as a winger, very smart and deceivingly very quick as well. I feel like it'll be a massive season for him. I think he'll get the start. He'll be locked into that starting 11 throughout the season, and you can expect some big numbers for Amad Diallo this season. I'm thinking 10 goals and 10 assists plus if he's locked into that starting 11 throughout the season this year for Manchester United. My penultimate player is Samuel Adoi, another real personal favourite of mine. I love what the young 21-year-old has done so far at Southampton. An important player for them last season. Wasn't amazing all season long, but an important player in key moments. And ended up with the 6 goals and the 3 assists. A very dangerous option for Southampton in a similar mould to a lot of the players I mentioned so far. Playing with a side that I think will be relegated, so rely a lot on chance creation and taking opportunities when you get the opportunity to. And I feel like Samuel Adoi is a bit of that X factor, a difference maker in the pitch, that he could separate himself and help Southampton stay up if they are going to stay up this season in the Premier League. He's very smart with the ball at his feet. Again, a lot of raw talent there, a lot to be worked on. But he may just harness his skills here with a lot of game time in the Premier League. Linking up with the likes of Ben, Brereton, Diaz and Adam Armstrong, I can imagine be a very, very dynamic and fluid front line, and he could really benefit from that there and cause a lot of problems for the Premier League with his unpredictability. I feel like that will be his difference as a real young, unproven talent, but he's got the signs of a good player. Very tricky with the ball at his feet, can skip past defenders for fun. Yes, that final delivery and that final finished product in terms of clinical nature in front of goal has to be improved, but we've seen signs already that he's a really dangerous player, and I feel like this season he might take that next step up and on the big stage at the Premier League, go and establish himself as a top player. Again, learning a lot of like Adam Armstrong and Ben Burton Diaz who have done it in the top flight before. I feel like he'll be taken under their wing. And Russell Martin plays a very attractive style of football. So if that continues this year, with the chances they may get, he may become one of their key options to find the back of the net and an important player for Southampton this season. And as such, will break out on the Premier League scene in season 24-25. My final player is Archie Gray, who's at Tottenham this season, joined from Leeds for 41.25 million euros, kept the 11 clean sheets for Leeds United last season and was amazing. Probably their best player in that losing championship final there. Played basically all over the park, filled out left back at times and also right back. We know he plays in a deep lying midfield position. I've proposed at times if they try and change things up, he might play as a fullback in this Spurs side because it's going to be very hard for him to break in ahead of Papsar, Basuma, Bentancur. But we know this kid's got quality, and in pre-season we've seen that ability to break the play up, and it feels like this modern generation, these young English talents, can not only break the game up, but progress the ball going forward. And I feel like under the Ant system, how back and forth it is and how much energy you need to exude to be important and pivotal in the system, he might fit in really, really well. He's a workhorse. He wins the ball back really, really well. And he shows that composure in the ball that not many other deep-lying young playmakers and defensive midfielders in the world have. I feel like he's mature beyond his years. He's going to be really, really important for Spurs this season. And you know how tiring that system is. He's going to get football no matter what, even if he's a starter or a bench player or a rotation player. You're going to see minutes for him in the Premier League and in cup football. And I feel like he'll just work his way into either a starting five or consistent bench option for Ange Postecoglou this season. Big money. Big raps around the player, coming from Leeds. He knows how to deal with the pressure, and I feel like he'll flourish this season under Ange Postecoglou and at Tottenham Hotspur. With that being said, ladies and gents, that is 10 players who I think will have a breakout season this year in the Premier League. Some big names in there. Running through them one more time, we've got Omari Hutchinson, Kevin Schade, Yankuba Minta, Valentin Barco, Tim Arubenham, Toby Collier, Stephy Madidi, Amad Diallo, Samuel Edozie, and Archie Gray, all varying young talents, new signings, so a bit older heads there as well, established himself on the big stage of the Premier League, but really, really exciting talents nonetheless. And they'll all be very pivotal to their side, I feel like, either staying up or establishing themselves in Europe, or their team pushing on to bigger and better things this season. As I said at the start of the video, let me know your thoughts. Do you like my calls of 10 breakout players? Do you think there's other players that might have better breakout seasons? Let me know that in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed the video, please like it. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the Players Zone channel for more Premier League and other football content. And make sure you press that post notification bell so you know we upload our videos, podcasts, reaction content, or real life content. It's all going to live here on the Players Zone channel. I hope you have a great week today, guys. The Premier League is just around the corner. Absolutely cannot wait. I hope you're excited about the season too. Have a great day today, and I'll see you guys in the video very, very soon. Till next time, guys. See you later.